What's up everyone, Nigel here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about how I became an entrepreneur through reading Robert Kiyosaki's books. So there are two Robert Kiyosaki books that completely revolutionized the way that I think about my finances, the things that I invest in, and even the career that I'm in, and has really projected me to become an entrepreneur. And that first book is this one, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This book is a classic and is probably one of the most well-recognized business books of all time and is responsible for changing the lives of countless entrepreneurs around the world. And one key takeaway that I got from this book is really how to distinguish the difference between an asset and a liability. So an asset is something that puts money into your pockets. That's things like businesses, stocks and bonds, and real estate investments. Now liabilities are things that take money out of your pockets. That's things like your expenses, your mortgage payments, your car payments, even your Netflix bill. And what I realized is that if I want to create real wealth, I would have to focus on finding income generating assets while minimizing expenses and liabilities. And one of the most controversial statements in the book that he talks about is that a house is not an asset. Rather, it's a liability because it takes a lot of money to manage. So instead of me saving up all my money to put towards a house, I would rather put that money towards my own knowledge to make me the asset so I can generate real wealth for myself.
My poor dad always said to me, go to school and get a high-paying job. That's not wealth. That's a job. You can get fired, you know. And then my rich dad always says, work for assets.
So the second book that I love is called The Business of the 21st Century. And this book was actually the catalyst that made me become an entrepreneur. And in that book, he highlights this concept called the 4 quadrants. And I'm gonna write it here on the whiteboard for you. So pretty much he says that everyone in society falls under one of these sections in the quadrant. So E stands for employees. These are people with a job essentially, right? People that value a 9 to 5, people that value benefits, and they value things like security, right? People in the S quadrant, this is self-employed. These are the people that you hear them say things like, if you can't get it done right, do it yourself. They value things like independence, right? They could be like doctors, lawyers, people that own a job. Now on the right side of the quadrant, in the B quadrant is business owners. So these are big business owners, people that value a system, that value a team, and value like organizational wins, right? And people in the I quadrant are investors. These are people that use their money to work for them. These are people that value freedom, financial freedom. And what Robert Kiyosaki talks about is that the people in the left quadrant make up 80% of the population, but only 20% of the wealth. Whereas on the right side, it's the opposite, right? We only have 20% of the population here, and they make up 80% of the wealth. And so when I first saw this blew my mind because I knew I wanted to be on the right side, but I also knew that I was right over here, like most people. I was an employee, I had a job. And so now I had this knowledge that this was even a thing because I didn't know that financial freedom was a real thing. I really didn't. But I knew I wanted to get there, right? Because who doesn't value freedom, right? Who doesn't want ultimate wealth to do whatever you want, to live your best life? And so that was the journey of me trying to find out how to get from here to here. And the first step I took towards that was joining network marketing. And that's what this book is about. Business of the 21st Century is about network marketing. And I know there's a lot of misconceptions and false and bad connotations towards it, but I did it even with the naysayers. And I was in it for about 2.5 years, and I was working it, and I absolutely loved it because the values that they teach of entrepreneurship and knowledge were fundamental in me pursuing my career in entrepreneurship. And even though I left that company and I failed that essentially, that was my first big failure, the values and the lessons that I took from it were priceless, right? Because I learned in that education how to actually think like an entrepreneur, how to think like a business owner, and not to think like an employee. And so when I left that company, that MLM company, I started my own company, which is an agency for martial arts studios. And martial arts was a huge passion of mine and pretty much my entire life growing up. And so I knew I wanted to do something with martial arts. And so that's why I started a martial arts agency. And now, instead of being here, I've actually been able to come down here. So I moved one quadrant down. And now, because I'm self-employed, I know I'm one step closer to coming up to here and to be an investor, or to a business owner, and then eventually coming down to here to become an investor. And so if I had just stuck with what the naysayers told me to do and what the haters told me not to do, I would never have joined network marketing. And I never would have owned the company that I have today if I had never joined network marketing. So that lesson really taught me that you might not be doing the thing that you're doing right now forever. The thing that you're doing right now may lead you to other opportunities, other open doors that you never would have experienced had you not first taken the leap to try to move down the quadrant. And so that was the lesson, the huge lesson for me. And that was the story of how I became an entrepreneur. And Robert Kiyosaki really inspired me to push my boundaries and to pursue for what I believe in. And I would love to hear it down in the comments. Any stories of you guys overcoming your naysayers, your haters, and pursuing that passion, that dream, and made it a reality despite what they said. This is Nigel here, and I'm signing off. See you in the next video.